A lot of games now have physics engines. That is, you kill someone and they dramatically collapse like they're in some kind of Shakespearean play. You blow up something and it blows up a little differently every time. The problem with a lot of physics engines and games trying to be realistic in general is that they try to be cutting edge. Because of that, I feel like that instantly dates a game, and looking back can make them look pretty laughable.
Fish, move out of the way when you get close to them.
But what if there was a game that had a physics engine so good that I think it still deserves a mention today, more than 14 years after its release? A game where getting drunk is funny because you stumble around like a newborn baby and drive like one too. A game that's tech is comparable today both in its complexity and difficulty to run properly. If you can't figure out what game I'm talking about, then congratulations. You managed to click a YouTube video without reading the title. Euphoria was a game animation middleware created by Natural Motion based on... oh, whatever. Basically, this motion engine creates animations on the fly. So in the context of GTA 4, this means that characters in the game world can interact with each other. Rather than having ragdolls plop to the ground, characters will actively try to prevent themselves from falling, react to getting shot, getting run over, and other stuff. I say that in a sort of joking tone, since this engine is being mainly used to emphasize killing people, but it really does add a lot to the game. Characters and vehicles physically have this weight to them that I feel like is missing from a lot of other games. The fact that a lot of the animations you see in this game are procedurally generated is insane to me. It brings the sense of realism and immersion and gives so much more impact to what you're doing. It makes the game world seem so much more alive and helps sell this already amazing atmosphere, and getting blasted and wobbling around is just plain funny. Grand Theft Auto 4 wasn't the only game to have Euphoria, but I don't think we're going to be talking about Backbreaker anytime soon.
Hey, yo!
Grand Theft Auto 5 has it, but it was cut back pretty significantly. I'll get into that later. Something else in Grand Theft Auto 4 that's a lot less arcadey when compared to 5 is its combat. It's a lot more serious in the way the characters react to it. Also, it's just a lot harder to land your shots with automatic weapons. In gunfights, the people you're fighting will properly react when they're hit. They'll physically move in response to your bullet. They'll stumble or try to cover themselves, and you can even knock them over if you shoot them enough. Not because you've killed them, but because it feels like the weight of your bullets brought them down. These reactions are completely made up on the fly, remember? That means that every conflict will be a little different. That's what makes the combat so fun in this game. It's a new experience every time, and it doesn't feel half-assed at all. Different weapons have different stopping power. Pistols and SMGs are really good in tight spaces, but don't have as much stopping power as rifles or snipers. Shotguns are really fun to use because they're so powerful. Knocking people down with them is really satisfying and can clear out groups of enemies very easily. The explosives are probably where physics come into play the most, as blasting people in different directions is good for crowd control and also dangerous for yourself if you're not careful. Hand-to-hand combat is fun too, way more in-depth than it was in GTA 5. I really like the way you can just push people around in this game. The icing on the cake is that when you win, your opponent goes down pretty triumphantly. Totally unrelated to the physics, but relevant to the combat itself, a lot of the time in more hectic gunfights, the main character, Nico, will scream and sort of taunt your enemies. This alone adds so much since his backstory has him fighting a war in Eastern Europe, likely resulting in a significant amount of post-traumatic stress disorder. His screams usually ripple in the locations you're fighting in, and that makes them all the more haunting.
It's you or me! You should not have fucked with me! I'll cut off your fucking head! I'll rip your fucking heart out! You are the hero! God bless this city!
Grand Theft Auto 4 isn't afraid to be wacky like the other games in the series, but it does a great job of holding a serious tone when it needs to. Having this serious tone integrated with gameplay by using a very innovative physics engine makes fighting in this game very impactful. I think it pushes the limit as to how powerful and memorable a single gunfight can be when all of these pieces come together. Driving in Grand Theft Auto 4 is a controversial topic. Some people love it, some people hate it. In Grand Theft Auto 5, driving is a lot more arcadey. It works though because the map is a lot bigger. You're in this sprawling environment that's not just city, 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 but also hills, deserts, mountains, grassy plains, etc. It's a lot more open for you to be fast, and that control when you go really fast is important. It being more stiff makes sense. Grand Theft Auto 4's map is pretty much purely urban city. There's areas of grass and all that, but the main focus is on the city. So I feel like the cars being a lot less stiff works in this case. Trying to dodge traffic in these cramped streets and racing around corners is really fun. And seeing the way the suspension works in the cars when you take sharp turns is really immersive. Whenever I play a game that has driving, I think to myself, is it like GTA 4? Is the suspension exaggerated in such a way that I can see the car physically leaning? Or is it as stiff as GTA 5? Cars feel significantly different from each other too. That sense of weight is done excellently in this game. The soft body physics on display are radically different here as well. The cars in GTA 4 show a lot more damage when you crash into things and break them over time. Meanwhile, it was pretty cut back in 5. Combine the emphasis on greater damage to vehicles with the weight of them in 4, and you have an amazing sense of impact when you crash into something. It gives driving that edge and excitement knowing that one wrong turn on a corner could be devastating to your vehicle, or you. It's really fun though. Super satisfying to pull off almost any kind of vehicular feat in this game compared to 5 because there's a lot more skill and nuance involved. Or you're just at the mercy of the physics engine entirely. A lot of people don't like that though, and that's fine. 5's driving is a lot more accessible and forgiving, which is great. Yeah, it's there. You can splash and the water will react accordingly. Helicopters will create waves in the water, which is a pretty cool feature. Does this count as part of the in-game physics? Maybe. I like how the weather in this game makes the tone and atmosphere of Liberty City change drastically. Certain times of day and weather can make this game look amazing, and it can also make it look really bleak and awful. Flying between buildings in a helicopter is fun, and I like how the tail can fly off if you're not careful. Yeah, this was a feature, I guess. It's pretty forgettable and not used much throughout the game, but throwing bricks at your friends is great. Some parts of the environment are pretty fragile. I've heard some people say that the physics engine is what made this game run like shit. While it's not conclusive, I'll say that I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Rockstar really pushed a lot of boundaries in GTA 4, not only stepping away from previous entries with a much more serious story, and a revolutionary game world. The gameplay is just top-notch to me, still to this day. The punchy shooting combined with enemies who actually react to your gunfire with brand new animations every time, along with cars that, while very difficult to control, are very fun to drive, make for this one-of-a-kind experience. GTA 5 kinda lacks when it comes to these things in my opinion, and while it's still an amazing game, I just wish they didn't tone back these gameplay elements so much. GTA 4, while well over 10 years old at this point, still holds up very well today. Was it worth it? I mean, to have enough ambition to make your game pretty much unplayable on PC for many years without a supercomputer? Hey, it's been done before. I can say in the year 2022,
I should have stayed at home.